We have one of those gospel lessons which is really hard to explain. What Jesus is doing is actually getting us ready for the second coming. This is the last of 3 Gospels that tell us what to expect when the second coming comes. So last week, it was the bridesmaids and the groom. This week, it's the slaves who are investing their talents and the master. All of it is getting ready, actually, for the beginning of Advent. And the theme there is, are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? But do we really believe that when God comes, there will be gnashing of teeth if we don't do enough to prepare? I feel for the guy who had the 1 talent. And a talent is a large amount of money. They figured that back then a talent was about 7.5 years worth of income for a day laborer. It's a lot of money. But he was so afraid to do anything with it that he buried it in the backyard. They say now that the word talent that we use as gifts and strengths, God-given gifts and strengths, actually comes from this use of the word back then. Only we have evolved from talking about money to talking about strengths and goodness that God has given us. So do you have a talent that you have buried? Do you have a talent that somewhere deep inside of you are afraid to use? Whether it is being able to sing or play the guitar, and you're afraid of embarrassing yourself, you're afraid of disappointment, you're afraid that it won't come to fruition, you're afraid of failure. And so you dig it and put it in a hole in your backyard. A couple of years ago, I was looking for a job. And I found one online that had been posted, and it was the perfect job for me. I kept reading over and over and over again the job description. The church was wonderful. The town was perfect. And I told everybody about this wonderful job. Until one person asked me, when are you going to apply? I was afraid of applying for the job because I was afraid I wasn't going to get it. And so if you don't apply, they're not going to say no, right? And it's kind of like my son who fell in love with this girl when he was about 10. If he didn't call her, she wasn't going to be able to turn him down, right? If you don't apply, if you don't buy the ticket, you're not going to win the lottery. So with this job, finally, I got up enough courage to apply for the job. I don't know where I found the courage to send in my application, and I didn't get the job. So there was a lot of weeping and gnashing of teeth that night. Because I thought, that's it, I'm never going to apply for another job, which scared my husband altogether. But the next morning, I looked at myself in the mirror and I thought, wow, I haven't cracked. I haven't dissolved into water. I'm still here. Even though they said no, I'm still alive. And that gave me the courage to apply to another job. And they said no. But at least I had the courage to apply. And I did that quite a few times. Each time I gathered more and more courage. Each time I recognized my friends were saying, hang in there, don't worry, the job will come, the perfect job will come. Keep going. And that fear of failure began the courage kept going higher and higher. Because whatever talent I had, I wasn't finally burying it in the backyard. And I did find the perfect job. Thank you very much. So that if we believe that all of us have been given talents, a gift from God, then it is our responsibility to explore, to discover, to garner enough courage to use those talents, whatever they are. And you have a unique assembly of talents. Whether it's Jim Weekly, who doesn't mind spending the night and not sleeping, who spent 2 shifts here during winter relief. Whether it is raising your children, whether it is praying for people, and you pray ceaselessly for the prayer list, whether you're a cook and you provide breakfast, lunch, or dinner, whether you're a gardener and planted bulbs. By virtue of being here in this church, in this pew, you have used a gift. Because without you and your presence here, what would happen if somebody else came to this church and you weren't here? There was no one else here. You have used a gift to get here, to be here, to worship here, to hold a place in that pew. That's good enough. But you also have other talents. In Advent, and here comes the advertisement. In Advent, we are using a book called Living Your Strengths. This is part of the Strength Finders program. Has anybody heard of the Strength Finders program? It's been on the New York Times bestseller list for the last 3 years. And yet, you're the first person out of 3 services that has actually heard of it. This is the faithful version of the Strength Finders. The assumption here is that you have 5 primary talents that have been given to you by God to use for God's will. Because that is what discipleship is. The desire to use your talents to serve God's will. And so during Advent, we will be discussing talents. What is it that God has given you? So in the back of the book, there is a special code. You go online and you take a 15-minute test, and it will tell you what your 5 biggest talents are. It's amazing how well it works. Because things that I took for granted, I end up finding that it's a talent. One of my talents is that I connect people. I'm a connector. Who knew? And so that I know, I'm going to connect you with you to you. And that's a skill that I have, that's a talent I have. And thank God, because this is very helpful in my work. Each of us has 5 talents. The question is, are you going to bury them in your backyard? Or are you going to have the courage to risk finding them and using them? And just because you have gray hair doesn't mean that you know all about what talents you have. Because you'll be surprised. Gosh, I have lived 59 years and I never knew I was a connector. May St. Margaret's be a church of courage to use our talents for whatever you are called to be in our discipleship. Finally, I want to read a poem prayer that perhaps is best known from the Nelson Mandela inaugural address. But Nelson Mandela actually didn't write it. A woman named Marianne Williamson did. And it's called Our Deepest Fear. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, this is my favorite line, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine, as children do. We are born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. May St. Margaret's be a church of liberation, courage, and talent. Amen.